He looked at the empty desk, the morning light hitting the polished wood where she was supposed to be. Mr. Harrison picked up his red pen, the smooth plastic cool against his fingers. He sighed, a quiet breath of disappointment that fogged the cold classroom air. He navigated the attendance sheet, his eyes finding the name Lily Miller. He pressed the pen to the paper, drawing a firm, red line through the box. Absent. It was the 3rd time this week, the 7th time this month. He thought of the bright, promising student she had been at the start of the year, and the quiet, tired shadow she had become. He didn't know it then, but this small act of frustration, this simple red mark, was about to unravel a story hidden in the shadows of their small town. A story that would challenge everything he thought he knew about rules, responsibility, and the quiet battles of the human heart. Mr. Harrison was a good man. He believed in structure, in history, and in the power of a perfect attendance record. To him, showing up was the first, most important step towards success. He had taught 8th grade history at Northwood Middle School for 20 years, and he'd seen it all. He believed he knew the signs of a student in trouble and the signs of a student who was simply giving up. Lately, he had placed Lily Miller in the 2nd category. She used to sit in the front row, her hand always the first in the air. She loved stories of the past, of resilience and courage. Now, she huddled in the back corner, her worn-out purple backpack clutched at her feet. Her uniform was always clean, but he noticed the cuffs of her sweater were beginning to fray. He had tried to reach her. Just last week, he'd asked her to stay after class. "Lily, is everything all right?" he asked, his voice softer than it was in front of the class. "Your grades are slipping. You seem distant." Lily kept her eyes on the floor. "I'm just tired, Mr. Harrison. I haven't been sleeping well." "Is there anything going on at home? Anything the school counselor and I can help with?" She shook her head quickly, perhaps too quickly. "No, everything is fine. I'll try harder." But she didn't. The absences continued. The dark circles under her eyes only seemed to deepen. Mr. Harrison felt that familiar wall go up. He had offered help, and she had refused it. Now, it was a matter of policy. The midterm exams were approaching. This was the heavy weight of the semester, the one that could make or break a student's year. Mr. Harrison stood before his class, his expression serious. "I cannot stress this enough," he said, his voice echoing slightly in the quiet room. "Attendance during exam week is mandatory. There are no makeups without a signed doctor's note. If you are not here, you will receive a 0. No exceptions." As he spoke, his eyes found Lily in the back row. She was staring at her desk, tracing the grain of the wood with her fingernail. She looked pale, and her hands were trembling, just slightly. She looked up and met his gaze, and for a second, he didn't see defiance or apathy. He saw desperation. But the moment passed. She nodded, just like everyone else. The next morning, the day of the history midterm, the tension in the school was palpable. Students clustered by their lockers, quizzing each other with flashcards. Mr. Harrison walked into his classroom. He placed the stack of exams on his desk. He looked up at the clock. 8:15 a.m. The bell rang. Students filed in, their faces a mix of anxiety and determination. He began the roll call. "David? Here. Sarah? Here. Michael? Here." He paused. He looked toward the back corner. The empty desk seemed to mock him. "Lily?" Silence. A heavy, disappointed sigh left him. He picked up the red pen. He felt a flash of anger, not at her, but at the situation, at the waste of potential. He marked her absent. He was about to start handing out the exams when a strange feeling stopped him. It was a small, quiet whisper in his heart. "Go." He looked at the class. They were all waiting, pencils ready. He looked at the door. It was illogical. It was against protocol. Mrs. Gable? He called out, stepping into the hallway and flagging down the teacher from the classroom next door. Could you please proctor my class for a few minutes? I have an urgent matter. Before she could fully agree, he was walking, fast, to the main office. He didn't know what he was doing, only that he had to. He pulled Lily Miller's file. Her address was on the other side of town, in the old Callaway apartment complex. He grabbed his keys, his heart pounding a strange, unfamiliar rhythm. The drive took 15 minutes. The apartment building was older than he'd expected. The brick faded, and the railings rusted. He walked up 3 flights of worn concrete stairs to apartment 3B. He stood outside the door, his anger completely gone, replaced by a sudden creeping dread. What was he doing here? What if her family was sleeping? What if he was crossing a line he couldn't uncross? He raised his hand to knock, but a sound from inside stopped him. It was Lily's voice, soft and full of patience. "Come on, Sam," she was whispering. "Just one more bite. It's warm. It'll make you feel better." There was a pause, and then a small, weak cough. A child's cough, thin and rattling. Mr. Harrison's breath caught in his throat. He knocked softly. The whispering stopped. The apartment went utterly silent. He knocked again, a little louder this time. "Lily? It's Mr. Harrison, from school. Are you okay?" He heard a small gasp, then the frantic sound of the chain lock being fumbled. The door opened a few inches. Lily's eyes, wide and terrified, peered out at him. "Mr. Harrison? What are you doing here?" I was worried," he stammered, feeling foolish. "You missed the midterm." Lily's face crumpled. The weight of the world seemed to settle on her small shoulders. "I'm so sorry, sir," she whispered. I couldn't." "Lily, who were you talking to?" Tears began to trace paths down her cheeks. She stepped back and opened the door. The apartment was tiny and sparse, but impeccably clean. On a small cot set up in the middle of the living room, a little boy, no older than 6, was lying under a pile of blankets. He was pale, a sheen of sweat on his forehead, and his breathing was shallow. "This is my brother, Sam," Lily said, her voice shaking. "He has pneumonia. It got bad, really bad, 2 weeks ago." Mr. Harrison stepped inside, his shoes silent on the worn linoleum. He looked from the sick boy to the 14-year-old girl standing beside him. Where is your mother?" he asked gently. "She's working," Lily whispered, wiping her eyes. "She got a new job at the factory across town. She's on probation. If she takes a day off, they'll fire her. We can't afford the daytime nurse anymore. We can't lose this apartment." Mr. Harrison looked around. On the small kitchen counter, he saw a bottle of children's cough syrup, a thermometer, and a glass of water, and next to them, a worn history textbook. On the small table beside Sam's cot, there was a spiral notebook. It wasn't filled with history notes. It was a schedule written in Lily's neat handwriting. 8 a.m., Sam's breathing treatment. 9:30 a.m., check temperature. Give medicine. 10 a.m., read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Chapter 4. 11 a.m., soup. He looked at the clock on the wall. It was 11:05 a.m. She hadn't been skipping school to sleep or to run around with friends. She had been running a one-person hospital. "You've been doing this all alone?" Mr. Harrison asked, his voice thick with an emotion he couldn't name. It was shame. Lily nodded, tears flowing freely now. "I try to study when he sleeps. I really do. But he gets so scared when he's sick. I can't leave him alone. I didn't want to fail your class, Mr. Harrison. I couldn't fail my brother." He looked at this child who was forced to choose between her education and her family. He thought of his red pen, his attendance policy, his quick and easy judgment. He saw her worn-out shoes by the door and the single drawing taped to the wall, a crayon picture of her, Sam, and their mom, all holding hands under a bright yellow sun. He finally understood. Lily hadn't given up. She was the strongest person he knew. Mr. Harrison knelt by the little boy's cot. Sam looked at him with big, tired eyes. "Hello, Sam," Mr. Harrison said, his voice soft. "I'm Lily's teacher." He then took out his phone. His first call was not to the school principal. It was to his wife, who was a nurse. "Honey," he said, stepping quietly onto the small balcony, "I need your help. I'm at the Callaway Apartments, apartment 3B. There's a little boy here who's very sick, and his sister—" His voice broke. "His sister is trying to save him." That day, everything changed. Mr. Harrison's wife came. She assessed Sam and made calls, arranging for proper medical care and a social service visit, not to punish, but to provide support. Mr. Harrison went to the principal. He explained the whole story. The school, so often a place of rules, became a place of miracles. The principal approved immediate homebound instruction for Lily. Teachers volunteered to tutor her. A food drive was started for the Miller family, and the school PTA raised enough money to cover a home health aide for 2 weeks, so their mother wouldn't have to miss work and Lily could focus on her studies. Mr. Harrison sat with Lily at her kitchen table every day after school for the next week, while Sam, finally on the right medication, rested peacefully. He didn't just give her the midterm, he taught her the material again, piece by piece. When she finally took the exam, she got an A. But it was Mr. Harrison who felt he had been the one to pass a test. He learned that the most important lessons are not in textbooks. They are in the quiet sacrifices people make for the ones they love. He still keeps his red pen, but he sees it differently now. It's a reminder that before you mark someone absent, you must first understand what or who they are present for. Share this story if it touched your heart and reminded you that kindness is just compassion in action.